We begin in silence. A boundless horizon of white stretches in every direction, broken only by the moan of the wind as it sweeps across the frozen plains. Antarctica is not a land that welcomes. It is a land that endures, vast and indifferent, as if it exists outside the rhythm of human history. To look upon it is to feel both awe and unease, as though one has stepped into the last untouched corner of the earth. This is no ordinary wilderness. Beneath its cloak of ice lie mysteries that have stirred explorers, scholars, and dreamers for centuries. Some call it a desert of emptiness, yet the truth feels far more profound. Antarctica is a riddle carved into the bones of our planet, a place where silence itself becomes a keeper of secrets, where every gust of wind whispers that something waits below. The governments of the world guard this frozen continent with an unusual vigilance. Treaties restrict its use, research is carefully controlled, and access is limited. Such unity among nations is rare, and it raises questions. What lies hidden here that demands such protection? Is it simply the fragile purity of the land, or something older, deeper, and far more dangerous to reveal? Whispers tell of ruins buried beneath the glaciers, of ancient maps that show Antarctica as it once was, green and alive long before ice claimed it. Radar scans hint at geometric patterns deep below, shapes that should not exist in nature. Legends entwine with fact until it is impossible to tell where one ends and the other begins, leaving only the unsettling suggestion that history is not what we think it is. Antarctica's story is more than science or exploration. It is a saga of forbidden knowledge, of explorers who glimpsed what they could not explain, of missions cloaked in secrecy, and of myths that refused to die. Each step upon its ice feels like trespass, as if the land itself resists intrusion, as if it guards something humanity is not yet meant to uncover. This journey will take us deep into that mystery, across frozen plains and through the echoes of forgotten ages. If you enjoy unraveling hidden histories and stepping into the unknown, make sure to subscribe to the channel, give this film a like, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your support helps bring more of these stories to light, and together we can continue exploring the secrets the world still keeps. Antarctica does not welcome strangers, it overwhelms them. From the moment one sets eyes upon its colossal expanse, the land reveals itself as something more than a place on a map. It is a realm where the ordinary laws of life seem suspended, and where silence reigns like a monarch that has never been dethroned. The vast plains stretch outward in an unbroken whiteness, dazzling under the pale sun, while the horizon bends into an infinite emptiness that unsettles even the bravest of hearts. The ice is not merely a surface, it is a kingdom unto itself, carved into towers and valleys by winds that have howled without pause for centuries. Icebergs rise from the frozen seas like cathedrals, each one shaped into strange forms by time and pressure, their surfaces catching the light in hues of blue, silver, and ghostly green. To wander here is to enter a gallery of frozen monuments, works of art created not by human hands, but by forces older than civilization itself. The silence of this land is its most haunting feature. It is not the quiet of a calm meadow, nor the stillness of night in a forest. It is an absence so complete that it presses against the ears, making each breath, each footstep, sound unnaturally loud. Explorers who wrote of their journeys often described this silence as a presence, something alive and watchful, a guardian keeping vigil over an ancient land that did not wish to be disturbed. Many who ventured into the White Desert believed it tested them in ways that went beyond endurance of the body. The cold gnawed not only at flesh but at reason. The endless sameness of ice and sky blurred perception, creating illusions, strange visions on the horizon, and feelings of being followed by something unseen. It was as though the land itself resisted intrusion, a sentinel determined to protect whatever secrets lay hidden beneath its mantle. The mountains of Antarctica deepen this impression. The trans-Antarctic range pierces the horizon with jagged peaks that rise defiantly into the clouds. From afar, they resemble the ruins of a colossal city, stone-like spires breaking through the eternal snow. Early explorers often remarked that these ranges seemed unnatural, almost architectural, as if they had once belonged to a lost civilization, now buried beneath layers of time. Legends born from hardship painted the landscape with a sense of haunting purpose. Men who survived near fatal storms claimed they heard whispers carried by the wind, voices indistinguishable from the howling air, yet strangely human. Stories circulated in hushed tones that the ice itself was alive, that it remembered those who dared to tread upon it, and that its silence was not emptiness, but memory. The White Desert was described as supernatural, not because of superstition alone, but because the experience of being within it defied ordinary comprehension. No other land on earth stretched so vast and yet remained so desolate, so untouched by humanity. It felt older than history, older even than the species that dared to wander across its edge. To many, it seemed less like part of Earth and more like a fragment of another world. Scientists who came to study its vastness often confessed a sense of awe that bordered on fear. Even with rational minds and precise instruments, the weight of Antarctica's silence imposed itself on them. Here, the human voice seemed out of place, a temporary intrusion into a dominion that had never known it before. To stand in the White Desert was to feel small, as though one had stumbled into the courtyard of eternity itself. Those who attempted to cross its plains often described an uncanny sensation of being watched, not by men, not by animals, but by the land itself. This feeling could not be explained away by fatigue or cold alone. It lingered in diaries, etched in words that hinted at experiences too strange to fully confess. Men who feared ridicule still wrote about the presence of something immense and aware, hidden in the silence. The White Desert is not simply geography, it is a keeper of time, an unbroken sentinel of the ancient world. Each snowflake that falls upon its plains adds to a burial shroud that has lain undisturbed for millions of years. Beneath it sleeps a memory of Earth untouched, preserved and perhaps guarded. This silence, so profound, becomes less absence and more possession, as though Antarctica itself is holding fast to secrets too vast to release. Long before explorers carved their way through ice, long before 1820 when the continent was officially sighted, the image of a southern landmass already haunted human imagination. Ancient cartographers, working with tools that should never have allowed such precision, sketched outlines that bear uncanny resemblance to Antarctica as it exists beneath the ice today. These maps should not exist, and yet they do. The most famous of these enigmas is the Piri Reis map, drawn in 1513 by a Turkish admiral. It combines fragments of older charts, some said to have survived from civilizations now long forgotten. On its parchment lies a depiction of a southern continent, drawn with remarkable accuracy. The coastline resembles what modern radar surveys have revealed beneath the thick ice, as though its creator had seen Antarctica before it was frozen. Equally perplexing is the Orontius Phineas map of 1531. It too shows a great land mass in the far south, detailed with rivers and mountains, drawn in a way that implies familiarity rather than speculation. What makes it disturbing is that it portrays Antarctica not as an icy wasteland, but as a habitable land complete with flowing water. If true, this suggests that whoever supplied the knowledge mapped it before the continent was sealed under its frozen prison. Historians argue that such maps were guesswork born from myth or imagination. Yet the level of detail refuses to be explained so easily. To draw mountains in the correct places, to trace coastlines concealed today by glaciers miles thick, is something beyond chance. It suggests that someone at some point saw the land uncovered and preserved that knowledge through means that remain a mystery. Did ancient civilizations possess the ability to chart the globe with a view from above? The precision resembles satellite imagery, yet these maps are centuries, if not millennia, older than such technology. Some have speculated that the maps are remnants of an advanced seafaring culture, one capable of circumnavigation long before the age of exploration, perhaps inheritors of knowledge passed down from a civilization older still. For those who study these maps with open minds, an unsettling possibility arises. What if Antarctica was not always a frozen tomb? What if, in a forgotten age, it was a thriving land, home to rivers, forests, and perhaps even cities? If so, then the ancient cartographers were not imagining, they were recording. The maps become less speculation and more memory, fragments of a history deliberately erased. The preservation of this knowledge raises questions of continuity. How could information so precise survive from one culture to another, passing through centuries of upheaval, only to resurface in the hands of men who themselves could barely explain it? The chain of transmission implies something purposeful, as though fragments of a lost record were carried forward through secret traditions or hidden archives. Some argue these maps are proof of contact with beings possessing knowledge beyond our own. Were the skies once traversed by eyes other than human, eyes that saw the earth in its entirety and chose to leave behind traces? This theory stretches the imagination, yet the alternative is equally strange, that humanity itself is far older and far more advanced than official history admits. The existence of these maps unsettles the foundations of history. If they are genuine depictions of a pre-glacial Antarctica, then the timeline of civilization must be rewritten. Humanity's story would not begin in Mesopotamia, but in a time when continents themselves bore different shapes, and when knowledge was lost beneath waves and ice. The maps endure as silent witnesses. They whisper of a forgotten lineage, a thread of memory too fragile to be complete, but too strong to disappear. They remind us that Antarctica may not only hold physical ruins, but also the ruins of knowledge itself, waiting to be acknowledged. In recent decades, modern instruments have pierced the frozen veil of Antarctica, revealing what human eyes cannot. Radar scans, seismic surveys, and satellite images have uncovered shapes beneath the glaciers that defy simple explanation. These are not random formations, they are geometric, structured, and precise. Lines stretch in patterns too straight to be natural. Domes emerge beneath miles of ice, their curves smooth and uniform, as if designed. Vast rectangular outlines appear, resembling the foundations of buildings, larger than any known city. Scientists, cautious in their language, call them anomalies. Yet for others, the word whispers louder meanings: ruins, buried, and waiting. The notion of hidden cities entombed beneath ice may sound like fantasy, but the technology does not lie. When radar beams strike the deep layers of ice, they return echoes, shapes that can be measured and compared. What emerges is a picture of complexity, of design where none should exist. The possibility that entire civilizations lie frozen in darkness cannot be dismissed so easily. Some researchers imagine vast halls preserved in perfect cold, chambers untouched by time, waiting beneath the glaciers like tombs of forgotten kings. If stone structures were once built here, they could remain intact, shielded by the weight of ice. Unlike ruins exposed to weather, those entombed in frost would endure through millennia, holding secrets in a silence even deeper than the desert above. Whispers spread through scientific circles, then beyond them, into the public imagination. Declassified satellite images have been said to show symmetrical shapes on the surface, peaks that resemble pyramids, domes that shine unnaturally beneath the snow. Officials dismiss them as tricks of geology, yet the curiosity does not fade. For every denial, more whispers emerge, feeding the idea that something monumental is being concealed. Stories circulate of expeditions that ventured too far, of teams discovering what they should not, only to vanish or to return in silence. Whispers claim photographs have disappeared, research suppressed, and findings locked away in vaults. Such secrecy breeds suspicion, and suspicion breathes life into the idea that Antarctica's ice covers not only nature's wonders, but the ruins of another world. The imagination paints vivid pictures of these hidden cities, streets frozen in stasis, columns of stone rising in frozen caverns, vast domes encased in ice crystals. The mind sees not a wasteland, but a ghostly metropolis, suspended between life and death, waiting to be uncovered. It is a haunting vision, not easily dismissed once it takes root. Scientists may scoff, yet the whispers persist. Anomalies become symbols, fragments of a puzzle too large to ignore. They awaken questions about human origins, about forgotten epochs, about whether civilizations once flourished in places now declared uninhabitable. If they did, then history itself becomes a veil as thick as ice, concealing truths too vast to acknowledge. Each year, as technology sharpens and scans grow deeper, more whispers rise from the frozen earth. They carry the suggestion that what we call anomaly is in fact memory, the faint echo of builders who once walked a land now buried. Antarctica does not surrender its secrets easily, yet its silence cannot hold them forever. To imagine what lies beneath is to peer into a darkness filled not with emptiness, but with presence. Beneath the glaciers may rest not only stone, but the remnants of a story that redefines who we are. The whispers are faint, but they grow louder, and their message is clear. The ice hides more than we are willing to admit. When the first great expeditions set out for Antarctica, they were not merely racing for glory. They were stepping into a land that seemed determined to defy them. The names of Amundsen, Scott, Shackleton, and Byrd are etched in history as men who tested themselves against the harshest conditions on Earth. Yet hidden within their stories are fragments that speak of something stranger, experiences that do not sit comfortably within the annals of exploration. Ernest Shackleton's journeys are remembered for endurance against impossible odds. His men crossed vast stretches of ice, driven to the limits of human survival. Yet in his accounts, and in those of his crew, lie passages that describe landscapes that should not exist. They wrote of mountains rising in places where no maps recorded them, of valleys that seemed impossibly lush amidst the wasteland, glimpsed only briefly before vanishing like a mirage. Were these illusions born of exhaustion, or glimpses of something the ice keeps hidden? Admiral Richard Byrd, whose flights over Antarctica opened the continent to the air, spoke of horizons that shifted in unnatural ways. He described seeing valleys filled with greenery, rivers glinting in the light, as if another world lay just beyond the reach of his wings. Officially, these accounts are dismissed as optical illusions, but the detail and conviction in Byrd's words suggest something more. Robert Falcon Scott, whose ill-fated expedition ended in tragedy, also hinted at strangeness in the land. His men spoke of light that seemed to bend, of shadows cast where no sun should reach, of a landscape that played tricks on the senses. They were men of discipline, not prone to fancy, yet their words carry the weight of experiences they could not explain. To step onto the Antarctic ice was to feel constantly deceived. The horizon seemed always to shift, distances impossible to judge, and shapes emerging where moments before there was only emptiness. Explorers spoke of sensations of being led astray, of paths that seemed clear only to vanish, leaving them stranded in confusion. Some came to believe that the land itself was resisting them, bending reality to protect its depths. For Shackleton's men, the struggle was not only with cold and hunger, but with an atmosphere that felt charged with something beyond the natural. They spoke of presences felt during long marches, as if unseen companions walked beside them. One diary mentions the feeling of a fourth man accompanying their group, silent, invisible, but undeniably present. This uncanny experience was never forgotten, and it left them with the impression that Antarctica was not as empty as it appeared. These explorers were hardened men driven by ambition and survival. They did not speak lightly of strange sights or phantom companions. Yet again and again their words returned to images of shifting horizons, hidden valleys, and the sensation of being watched. The white desert tested them not only with ice and wind, but with mysteries that gnawed at their perception of reality. The official histories polish their accounts, focusing on courage and endurance, yet the unedited diaries and private notes tell another story. They describe landscapes that do not belong, valleys that shimmer with life where no life should be, illusions that lasted too long to be simple tricks of the light. These details are often brushed aside, yet they persist like cracks in a carefully maintained facade. Were these men hallucinating, driven to delusion by hardship and hunger? Or did they, for fleeting moments, see the Antarctica that lies beneath, the land concealed by ice and protected by silence? The question lingers in their words, unanswered but insistent. The first explorers of Antarctica returned not only with tales of triumph and loss, but with secrets they could not reconcile. Their journals stand as testaments to the strange resistance of the land itself, as though Antarctica chose to guard its mysteries even from those bold enough to step upon it. Their stories remind us that exploration is not merely about reaching new places, but about confronting realities that challenge what we believe is possible. In the immediate aftermath of World War II, the United States Navy launched one of the largest Antarctic expeditions ever attempted. Officially, it was framed as a research mission, a chance to test men and machines in the most hostile environment on Earth. Yet the scale of the operation raised eyebrows from the start. Named Operation High Jump, it involved nearly 5,000 soldiers, dozens of aircraft, and a formidable fleet of warships. For a supposed research trip, it looked more like an invasion force. Admiral Richard E. Byrd, the seasoned polar explorer, was placed in command. He had already carved his name into history with flights over both poles, yet this mission was unlike his earlier ventures. It was a military endeavor disguised as science, and its objectives were never fully explained. Official documents listed training exercises and resource studies, but whispers spread of hidden goals, of something in Antarctica that demanded such overwhelming power. The fleet set sail in 1946, carving its way into icy waters that had swallowed explorers for centuries. Aircraft buzzed above the endless plains, mapping, photographing, and surveying the land in detail. Yet what was discovered during those months has never been fully disclosed. The operation, intended to last 6 to 8 months, was abruptly terminated after only weeks. The sudden withdrawal left behind questions that have never been resolved. Accounts of the mission's strange encounters surfaced in fragments. Reports spoke of aircraft lost under mysterious circumstances, of pilots who described objects moving at impossible speeds, darting through the skies like predators among prey. One chilling detail persisted in rumor that Admiral Byrd himself warned of threats capable of flying from pole to pole at incredible velocities, suggesting technologies far beyond what humanity possessed. The abrupt end of the mission was never fully explained. Official reasons cited weather, logistical challenges, and accidents, but to those who followed the story closely, these excuses rang hollow. A military force that vast does not retreat so suddenly without reason. It left the impression that Antarctica itself had pushed them back, or that they had stumbled upon something too dangerous to confront. Byrd's statements added fuel to the mystery. In interviews given after the expedition, he hinted at the existence of a new enemy, one that could strike anywhere on the planet with speed and power unknown to the modern world. These words, coming from a respected admiral, were not easily dismissed. Some saw them as warnings of secret technologies left behind by the war, perhaps hidden in Antarctica, waiting to be awakened. The geopolitical timing only deepened suspicions. The world had barely settled from global conflict, and already Antarctica had become a stage of strategic interest. Why would nations exhausted by war turn their eyes toward a frozen wasteland? Unless, of course, it was not a wasteland at all, but a land concealing something of immeasurable value. Operation High Jump was followed by silence. Official reports were brief, and many details remained classified. Researchers who sought to uncover more often found missing records or conflicting accounts. It was as though the truth of what occurred was deliberately shrouded, buried beneath layers of bureaucracy and secrecy, just as the continent itself was buried beneath layers of ice. Over time, the mission took on the aura of a turning point. Antarctica ceased to be simply a frontier for explorers, and instead became a restricted zone, bound by treaties and guarded from prying eyes. Operation High Jump stands at the center of this transformation, a moment when the continent shifted from curiosity to secrecy. What Byrd and his men encountered remains uncertain. Yet the legacy of Operation High Jump lingers like an echo in the frozen air, a reminder that beneath the official story lies a deeper one, untold, waiting in the silence of the ice. During the chaos of World War II, Nazi Germany pursued many strange ambitions. Among their most enigmatic ventures was their obsession with Antarctica. In 1938, they launched an expedition to the frozen continent, staking a claim they named Neuschwabenland, or New Swabia. Officially, it was for whaling and resource exploration, but the scale of the effort hinted at something far greater. The Nazis were not content with simply planting a flag. Their aircraft flew over vast stretches of land, dropping markers and photographing terrain. They mapped regions with unusual precision, documenting features that even now remain poorly understood. What drove them to pour resources into such a remote and hostile place while Europe braced for war? Rumors of hidden bases took root. Stories told of subterranean facilities carved into the ice, supplied by advanced submarines that slipped into the polar seas undetected. Legends claim that experimental technologies were hidden there, technologies far beyond what the world would see for decades. For those who believe, Antarctica became less a barren outpost and more a sanctuary for the forbidden. After the war, whispers grew that remnants of the regime had fled south, escaping justice in hidden strongholds beneath the ice. Allied intelligence reports, though fragmented, occasionally hinted at unexplained activity in the region. Could Antarctica have been a refuge for the defeated, a place where secrets of war and science survived beyond 1945? The fascination deepens when tied to the myths of ancient builders. Some suggest they were not merely exploring, but searching for something already buried there. Ruins of a civilization that predated history, a source of power they believed could secure their dominance. Their obsession with artifacts and relics from around the world was well documented. Why not Antarctica, the greatest vault of them all? What makes the enigma enduring is the lack of clarity. Much of what they did in Antarctica remains obscured, with documents destroyed, records lost, and witnesses silenced. This vacuum of truth invites speculation, and speculation grows fertile in silence. In the years after the war, when Operation High Jump unfolded with its own mysteries, many wondered if the two were connected. Did the Americans rush south not for research, but to investigate or confront remnants of a secret Nazi presence? The abrupt end of the mission only sharpened this question. Even today, the idea of a Nazi Antarctic base lingers in the collective imagination. It hovers between history and legend, between fact and myth, refusing to be dismissed entirely. The enigma is less about what we know and more about what we cannot prove, a shadow cast across the white desert by the ambitions of men who sought power in places others dared not tread. Antarctica, in this story, becomes a stage not only for exploration, but for obsession, for the dream of dominion, for the pursuit of forbidden science, and for the lingering suspicion that the war's secrets did not all die with its end. From the mid-20th century onward, Antarctica's skies became theatres for strange reports. Pilots spoke of disks that darted across their flight paths, glowing objects that defied speed and maneuverability limits, and lights that seemed to emerge from beneath the ice itself. For those who witnessed them, these were not illusions. They were machines unlike any known to mankind. Military records, declassified decades later, contain fragments of these accounts, reports of flying disks moving with impossible velocity over the poles, testimonies of radar operators tracking objects that appeared and vanished in seconds. Scientists stationed at remote bases whispered of sightings they could never explain, of luminous spheres hovering silently above the frozen plains. Skeptics dismissed them as natural phenomena, auroras, atmospheric mirages, or misidentified aircraft. Yet the sheer consistency of the accounts refuses to fade. Again and again, witnesses described craft with no visible means of propulsion, maneuvering with agility that mocks the limits of human engineering. Some point to the possibility of extraterrestrial origin, that Antarctica, hidden from prying eyes, serves as a staging ground for visitors from beyond. The continent's vast uninhabited spaces, its natural concealment beneath miles of ice, provide a perfect sanctuary. What better place for an unknown presence to hide than the most inaccessible land on Earth? Others argue that these sightings are not alien at all, but human technologies born of secrecy. Could ruins beneath the ice have yielded knowledge, fragments of machines, or principles of physics lost to history? If governments discovered such relics, they would guard them with utmost secrecy, testing them in the skies of the only continent where few would see. The timeline is compelling. Sightings increased dramatically after Operation High Jump and the post-war rush toward Antarctica. Was this coincidence, or did those missions uncover something that altered human understanding of flight and power? The silence of official agencies suggests not ignorance, but deliberate withholding. The reports from the 1950s onward carry chilling consistencies, objects rising vertically from beneath the ice, glowing with an otherworldly radiance, craft that seemed to descend into glaciers as though entering hidden hangars, lights that danced in formations mocking the capabilities of aircraft that tried to pursue them. For the men who saw them, explanations mattered little. They knew only what their eyes had witnessed and what their instruments confirmed. The skies above Antarctica were not empty. They were alive with presences that had no place in ordinary history. The connection between sky and land deepens the mystery. If the ice conceals ruins of vast antiquity, could those ruins be linked to what soars above? Are the objects guardians of a buried past, or the inheritors of it? The idea lingers, unsettling yet persistent, that the phenomena are not separate mysteries but fragments of one great puzzle. Antarctica becomes, in this light, a theatre where heaven and earth meet, where machines of unknown origin trace paths over a land already rich with secrets. To gaze upward in the polar night is to wonder not only what flies above, but what sleeps below, waiting in silence for the world to take notice. Legends across cultures speak of hidden realms beneath the ground, of vast inner kingdoms where light shines without sun and civilizations flourish unseen. From Tibetan myths of Shambhala to stories of Agartha, the idea of a hollow earth has persisted through centuries. Antarctica, with its impenetrable landscapes and concealed depths, has often been tied to these tales. The concept of entrances at the poles is one of the most enduring themes of hollow earth lore. Ancient maps and esoteric traditions hint that both north and south conceal openings, gateways into subterranean worlds. If such entrances exist, Antarctica, remote and fiercely guarded, would be the perfect candidate for hiding them. Admiral Richard Byrd is central to this mystery. A diary attributed to him, though contested by historians, tells of a flight over the pole where he allegedly encountered a lush, hidden land. According to the account, beneath the ice stretched valleys rich with greenery, rivers flowing freely, and beings who seemed guardians of a world untouched by time. Official records deny such events, dismissing the diary as a fabrication. Yet the persistence of the story, whispered across decades, keeps the idea alive. If Byrd truly glimpsed another realm, then Antarctica is not only a continent of ice, but a threshold into something far stranger. The myths themselves are compelling. Shambhala is said to be a place of wisdom, hidden until humanity is ready to receive it. Agartha, a vast subterranean network, is believed to shelter advanced beings, remnants of civilizations lost on the surface. These legends, scattered across cultures, converge on one idea, that the Earth is not a solid mass but a layered world of inner domains. Science dismisses the hollow Earth as fantasy, pointing to geological knowledge and seismic data. Yet anomalies continue to surface. Caverns large enough to house cities exist beneath the ice. Warm currents carve tunnels through glaciers, creating hidden worlds of liquid water sealed away from the surface. If life thrives in these enclaves unseen by human eyes, then the legends of hidden realms may hold more truth than myth. Whispers grow that certain expeditions stumbled upon entrances, vast caverns illuminated by natural light sources unknown to science. The descriptions resemble the old stories too closely to ignore. Could the myths of Agartha and Shambhala be distorted memories of real discoveries, passed down through generations as legend because their truth was too great to share? The image is haunting, a gateway hidden beneath the Antarctic ice, leading into a realm that defies human comprehension. If such an entrance exists, it would explain the secrecy surrounding the continent, the strict treaties, the restrictions on exploration. Perhaps Antarctica guards not only ruins, but an entire world beneath our feet. For those who believe, the hollow Earth theory transforms Antarctica into more than a frontier. It becomes the threshold of another dimension, one that could contain civilizations as advanced as any imagined, waiting for the moment humanity is ready, or foolish enough, to step through the gateway. Whether myth, metaphor, or hidden truth, the idea persists because it resonates with something deep within human imagination. Antarctica, silent and forbidding, may indeed be more than it appears. It may be the veil that hides not only our past, but worlds we have yet to discover. Antarctica, as we know it, appears lifeless and void of history. Yet when one considers the possibility that the continent was once free of its icy shroud, the imagination begins to stir with visions of what might have stood upon its surface. Could it have been home to civilizations whose memory has been swallowed by glaciers, builders whose works now lie preserved in frozen darkness? The concept of megalithic ruins beneath Antarctica's ice is not mere fantasy. In other parts of the world, structures like the pyramids of Egypt, the Cyclopean walls of Peru, and the stone circles of Europe stand as reminders that humanity's past is more complex than we are often taught. If such marvels could endure in climates far less forgiving, how much more could survive under miles of protective ice? Whispers suggest vast complexes buried deep below, immense halls carved from stone, and colossal statues entombed like guardians of a forgotten age. These would not be ordinary ruins, but monumental creations designed to last, to stand against the passage of time. The very notion raises unsettling questions. Who were these builders, and how advanced were they to thrive in a land so far from the cradle of civilization? Some imagine them as humans, survivors of an earlier cycle of history, an age lost to catastrophe. Others see them as something older still, beings who predated humanity, who raised their cities in an epoch when Antarctica basked in temperate climates, rich with forests and rivers. The ice, in this vision, is not their world, but their tomb. Legends from ancient cultures often speak of gods descending from the skies or of beings who retreated underground after cataclysmic events. Could these tales be distorted memories of encounters with civilizations once rooted in Antarctica? If so, the continent is not an empty wilderness, but a vast archive of myth rendered tangible. The allure of these imagined ruins lies not only in their scale, but in their potential meaning. They would rewrite our understanding of time itself, suggesting that civilization is not a recent phenomenon, but a recurring cycle. Each rise is followed by a fall, each fall by silence, and the silence of Antarctica may be the longest of all. Some researchers point to geometric anomalies recorded by radar and satellite scans as hints of such structures. Shapes that resemble city grids, domes, and even pyramids suggest not chaos but design. While official explanations dismiss them as natural, the possibility of design lingers, feeding the belief that the builder's legacy still waits beneath the frozen veil. If these ruins exist, they remain untouchable for now, locked beneath layers too vast to penetrate. Yet the ice is not static, it shifts, it cracks, it reveals glimpses of what lies below. Each year, as the glaciers retreat, more of the ancient world stirs. And one day the builders may reveal themselves again, not through myth or speculation, but through stone rising from beneath the snow. The silence of Antarctica may not only be natural, but deliberate, as though it has chosen to conceal its guardians. The builders, whoever they were, remain present, not in life, but in architecture, waiting for humanity to uncover their legacy. The thought is both wondrous and unsettling. To walk among ruins in Antarctica would be to walk into humanity's forgotten memory, to confront not just the past, but the possibility that we are not the first, nor the greatest, to call Earth our home. Antarctica's ice does more than conceal, it preserves. Each layer of snow that falls becomes a page in a frozen book, sealing away the story of climates, species, and perhaps civilizations long past. Scientists who drill deep into the ice recover air bubbles millions of years old, time capsules that whisper of atmospheres before humanity ever drew breath. The preservation power of ice is astonishing. Fossilized leaves, ancient microbes, and fragments of ecosystems have been recovered from beneath the glaciers. They speak of a world that once flourished where today only cold reigns. Forests of towering trees, creatures both familiar and alien, thrived in Antarctica's forgotten warmth. In each discovery, the ice yields a reminder that it is less a desert and more a vault. The idea that ruins or artifacts might also be preserved is not far-fetched. Unlike stone left exposed to the elements, objects entombed in ice are shielded from decay. They could remain intact, waiting in frozen stasis for the day they emerge. What secrets could be hidden in those depths? Tools, writings, even remnants of ancient machines. Explorers have reported glimpses of unusual shapes encased in glaciers, shapes that do not appear natural. While most of these claims are dismissed as pareidolia, the possibility cannot be ignored. The ice is a curtain, and behind it may lie entire worlds, untouched and waiting. Some believe Antarctica holds the key to prehistory itself. If humanity is older than current records suggest, if civilizations rose and fell long before ours, their remnants could be buried here in perfect preservation. Unlike ruins weathered by time in deserts or jungles, these would remain as if frozen yesterday, offering an unbroken link to an age we have forgotten. The scientific drilling that reaches deep into the continent often raises as many questions as it answers. Strange microorganisms have been revived from ancient ice, living after millennia of dormancy. If life can endure such imprisonment, what else might wait in the silence, preserved not only in form, but in potential? To imagine walking into a cavern of ice and finding an ancient structure within is to imagine stepping across time itself. It would not be like ordinary archaeology where fragments and ruins require reconstruction. It would be as though the builders themselves had just departed, their legacy preserved in crystal walls of frost. The ice has also preserved catastrophic events. Layers reveal volcanic ash, traces of meteor impacts, and sudden changes in climate. They speak of violent upheavals, of cataclysms that may have destroyed civilizations and entombed them in an instant. The continent becomes a frozen chronicle, recording not only life but death. Each year, as global warming melts more of Antarctica's fringes, glimpses of the past emerge. Fossils surface, valleys open, and new landscapes appear. The pace of revelation grows, hinting that much more waits to be uncovered. Antarctica is less a barren wilderness than a library, each glacier a shelf filled with history written in ice. If we read it carefully, we may not only learn about climates and species long gone, but also discover the echoes of civilizations erased, yet not forgotten, still preserved in the cold silence of the white desert. On the Antarctic plateau, sharp peaks rise unexpectedly from the endless white. Some are mere mountains shaped by wind and time, yet others bear forms too symmetrical, too perfect, to dismiss without wonder. Among these, the pyramid-like structures provoke the greatest fascination, standing like silent sentinels in a land no human civilization is said to have touched. From certain angles, their resemblance to the pyramids of Giza is startling. Smooth sides, sharp summits, and triangular symmetry appear unmistakable against the frozen horizon. While geologists insist these are natural formations, the eye cannot help but see design, and the mind cannot help but ask whether these icy monuments were once crafted by human or pre-human hands. Some theorists suggest a deliberate connection that the pyramids of Egypt, Mesoamerica, and other parts of the world were constructed in reflection of Antarctic peaks, mimicking a forgotten homeland now buried beneath ice. If true, then the great monuments of the ancient world are less original creations and more echoes of something far older. Legends of global civilizations gain strength from such imagery. If a culture once spanned continents, it might have built pyramids everywhere as markers, symbols of unity or power. Antarctica, in this view, would be the crown jewel of their achievements, a central land that guided others before catastrophe forced them into silence. Skeptics argue that symmetrical mountains are not uncommon, the result of erosion and geological processes. Yet even they admit the allure of these formations is powerful. To stand before such a peak in the middle of the Antarctic wastes is to feel as though one is gazing upon a monument, intentional or not, placed with purpose in the heart of desolation. Photographs released over the years, often from satellites or expeditions, have fueled endless debate. Some show shadows falling across slopes too smooth to be dismissed. Others capture angles so precise they resemble architectural blueprints. Each image becomes a canvas for speculation, a piece of evidence for those who believe the ice hides monuments of deliberate design. Stories persist of teams who studied these peaks more closely, only to have their findings disappear or remain unpublished. The secrecy feeds the fire, making every unexplained formation seem more suspicious, more deliberate. Antarctica's silence becomes complicit, as though it too guards these structures from the eyes of the world. The pyramids, whether natural or crafted, act as symbols. They suggest hidden order in the chaos, a geometry beneath the surface. They embody the possibility that Antarctica was once central to a global story we have forgotten, a chapter torn from the book of history. To imagine them as monuments is to see Antarctica not as remote wasteland, but as sacred ground. The peaks become markers of an age when the continent was alive, when it stood as part of humanity's greater stage. Their symmetry whispers of intention, of meaning, of a legacy preserved in snow. Whether mountains or monuments, the pyramids of Antarctica refuse to be ignored. They stand against the wind as eternal questions carved in ice, daring us to look beyond the surface, to consider that what we see as natural may instead be the frozen remains of a lost human story. Rumors have long circulated that beneath the icy surface of Antarctica, archaeologists and scientists have uncovered things that defy explanation. Stories speak of stone blocks cut with impossible precision, metallic fragments buried deep in the snow, and even inscriptions etched upon materials no one has been permitted to study. These whispers paint a picture of discoveries too dangerous to reveal. Official accounts remain silent. Expeditions return with photographs of mountains and ice, but never with artifacts. Yet the rumors persist. Researchers claim that private reports and testimonies, quickly silenced, describe structures resembling walls or pillars uncovered in sudden ice melts. Others speak of technology, objects that suggest metallurgy far older than any known culture. What makes these stories compelling is not just their content, but their fate. Time and again such reports vanish, withdrawn from archives, dismissed as hoaxes, or buried in bureaucracy. Scientists who attempt to discuss them find themselves ridiculed, careers ruined, or simply ignored. The pattern of silence is more convincing than denial. Why should archaeology in Antarctica be treated differently than anywhere else? If the land is truly empty, then what harm is there in open exploration? The very restrictions placed upon the continent invite suspicion. It is as though a curtain has been drawn, not only by ice, but by law, to keep humanity from peering too deeply. Whispers also tell of military involvement in excavations, teams of researchers escorted by soldiers entering regions no civilian has ever reached. Some claim these missions unearthed structures vast enough to house thousands, frozen cities locked in stasis. Yet the findings never reach the public. Instead, secrecy descends, and the silence of the ice is mirrored by the silence of governments. Photographs occasionally leak, grainy images of what appear to be entrances in mountainsides, symmetrical blocks peeking from melting glaciers, or strange objects half buried in frost. While many are dismissed as misinterpretations or fabrications, their sheer number and persistence suggest something more than coincidence. If artifacts exist beneath the ice, their implications would be profound. They would prove that Antarctica was once inhabited not by scattered tribes, but by a civilization advanced enough to build with stone and metal. Such knowledge would upend history, forcing us to reconsider everything we believe about humanity's timeline. Perhaps that is why the discoveries are forbidden. To acknowledge them would destabilize the foundations of archaeology, religion, and politics. The past, revealed in its true form, might challenge the powers that shape the present. Better, perhaps, to bury it in both ice and secrecy. Forbidden archaeology in Antarctica is more than rumor. It is an idea, a sense that the greatest revelations lie just out of reach. Each silence, each disappearance of evidence fuels the belief that something extraordinary has been found and hidden. The continent, untouched and remote, may not be barren after all. Beneath its frozen mask could rest the remains of a world that defies explanation, a story humanity is not yet ready or permitted to hear. Antarctica is unlike any other continent. It is not ruled by nations but by treaty. Signed in 1959, the Antarctic Treaty set the land aside for peace and science, forbidding military bases, mining, and territorial conquest. On the surface, it appears noble, a rare example of international unity. Yet behind the words of cooperation lies a question. Why is this desolate land so fiercely protected? The treaty is celebrated for preventing conflict, yet its restrictions are unusually strict. Nations that would normally compete for resources agreed not to touch Antarctica's wealth of minerals, oil, or natural gas. In a world driven by greed and rivalry, this restraint is unprecedented. Why would powers that warred over every other corner of the earth suddenly embrace preservation in a frozen wasteland? Some believe the answer lies not in the ice itself, but in what the ice conceals. If ruins, artifacts, or technologies are hidden beneath, then the treaty is not about protecting penguins or glaciers. It is about preventing humanity from prying into something too dangerous, something that must remain buried. Military presence, though officially banned, lingers at the edges. Nations maintain bases with dual purposes, stocked with equipment far beyond simple research. Satellite monitoring of the continent is constant, air travel is restricted, and permits for exploration are tightly controlled. To the casual eye, it looks like organization. To the suspicious, it looks like guardianship. Those who dig too deeply into the mysteries of Antarctica often find their path blocked. Expeditions are limited, reports redacted, and discoveries quietly dismissed. When explorers speak of anomalies or ruins, they are swiftly silenced or discredited. It is as though the guardians of silence extend beyond borders, enforcing secrecy through pressure and ridicule. Some whisper of an inner circle, a consortium of governments and agencies that know what lies beneath and have sworn to protect it from disclosure. Their reasons may be complex: fear of panic, fear of destabilizing religions or histories, or fear of a power too great to unleash. Whatever their motives, their influence is undeniable. The guardianship is not only political but psychological. Public perception is carefully managed. Antarctica is portrayed as empty, lifeless, and irrelevant to the story of humanity. This narrative discourages curiosity, ensuring that most never question what may lie beneath the ice. Silence is maintained not just by law, but by disinterest. Yet the veil cannot fully erase the sense of mystery. Too many anomalies surface: maps, sightings, strange structures, unexplained missions. These cracks in the official story fuel the suspicion that the treaty is less about peace and more about containment. The guardians of silence may succeed for now, but time itself works against them. As ice melts and discoveries surface, the truth they protect will grow harder to hide. And when it comes, humanity may discover that Antarctica's silence was never empty. It was deliberate, the quiet hand of power shielding secrets too vast for our age. Few myths have captivated the human imagination like Atlantis. Described by Plato as a great island kingdom that fell into the sea, its story has echoed for millennia, inspiring countless searches. Among the theories of its location, one of the boldest suggests that Atlantis did not sink beneath the waves. It froze beneath the ice of Antarctica. Plato spoke of a land beyond the Pillars of Hercules, a place of advanced knowledge and wealth destroyed by cataclysm. If Earth's poles shifted suddenly, as some theories propose, a temperate land could have been thrust into the Antarctic Circle, transformed almost overnight into a frozen tomb. This vision places Atlantis not in the Atlantic Ocean, but at the bottom of the world. The possibility is compelling. Ancient maps depicting a habitable Antarctica seem to align with the tale. Geological evidence shows that the continent once supported lush forests and flowing rivers. If a civilization thrived there, its sudden burial would mirror the destruction described in Plato's dialogues. The echoes of Atlantis may not be metaphor, but memory. The scale of Atlantis's supposed achievements, its vast cities, technologies, and fleets, matches the grandeur one imagines buried under the ice. If radar scans and anomalies hint at structures larger than modern cities, they could be the very ruins of that lost world, preserved in stasis until the ice retreats. Legends from across the globe describe great floods, fiery skies, and the fall of golden ages. These stories, though separated by oceans and cultures, echo the same catastrophe. If Atlantis was real, then perhaps Antarctica is its grave, and the myths we inherit are the fragmented recollections of survivors scattered to distant lands. For some, this theory explains the sudden rise of civilizations after the last ice age. Knowledge of architecture, astronomy, and agriculture seems to appear abruptly, as if inherited rather than discovered. Survivors of Atlantis, forced from their frozen home, may have seeded the cultures of Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the Americas, leaving behind monuments that echo their original homeland. The idea that Atlantis is Antarctica also ties into the secrecy surrounding the continent. If governments discovered ruins of such magnitude, the impact on history, religion, and identity would be immense. The story of humanity would have to be rewritten, acknowledging a cycle of civilization far older and more advanced than we have been willing to accept. Critics argue that Plato's tale was allegory, a moral warning against hubris. Yet even allegories often spring from fragments of truth. Perhaps Atlantis was not invented but remembered, distorted by centuries of retelling. Its true face may lie beneath Antarctica's ice, waiting to be revealed not as myth but as history. To imagine Antarctica as Atlantis is to see the continent in a new light, not as barren wasteland, but as the cradle of a forgotten age, a kingdom of stone and knowledge silenced by catastrophe. Its echoes linger in legend, whispering that the greatest story of human history may not be written in books, but buried in ice. Antarctica is not as lifeless as it appears. Beneath its frozen skin, fossils tell of jungles, rivers, and creatures long vanished. Scientific discoveries confirm that the continent once teemed with life, yet among these findings are hints of species that defy classification, beings that do not fit neatly into the story of evolution as we know it. Remnants of vast forests have been unearthed, with impressions of leaves preserved in stone. Fossils of giant amphibians and reptiles tell of a world once warm and fertile. Dinosaurs roamed its valleys, and enormous birds may have soared above its skies. But more curious still are discoveries that resist easy explanation. Bones that resemble no known creature, and microorganisms unlike anything catalogued. One unsettling find was the fossilized remains of colossal marine reptiles, creatures with jaws large enough to crush boats, preserved in the icy rock. Though classified by science, they ignite speculation about what else may yet survive in isolated, untouched environments beneath the ice. If life once thrived here, perhaps remnants endure, hidden in subterranean lakes or vast caves sealed from the surface. Microbes recovered from ancient ice cores have proven capable of revival after millions of years. Some of these organisms bear no resemblance to modern species, suggesting entire branches of life unknown to us. If such tiny beings can survive, could larger ones have endured as well, evolving in isolation, shielded by ice and darkness? Reports from explorers sometimes describe sightings of strange shapes moving beneath the waters, shadows too large to be seals or whales. Some claim to have heard unearthly calls echoing across the frozen seas, sounds no known animal could produce. While anecdotal, these accounts align with the idea that Antarctica is not empty, but alive in ways we cannot yet measure. Legends from other parts of the world speak of monstrous birds, serpents, and leviathans of the deep. Could Antarctica be their hidden refuge, a sanctuary where extinction never reached? If so, then fossils are not only relics of the past, but signposts pointing to a present we do not yet understand. The caves beneath Antarctica's ice, warmed by geothermal heat, form entire hidden ecosystems. Some are vast enough to shelter forests of moss and microbial life. If small ecosystems thrive, who can say what larger organisms might call them home? These pockets of warmth are windows into an alien world, one still connected to our own. Each fossil found in Antarctica stretches the imagination further, reminding us that the land we see is only the surface of a deeper mystery. Its bones speak of forgotten eras, its microbes of resilience beyond measure, and its caves of possibilities we have barely begun to explore. Perhaps the greatest discoveries are not in the past at all, but waiting to be encountered in the present. Creatures once thought extinct or entirely unknown to science may yet stir beneath the ice, their existence shielded by the silence of the continent. Antarctica's fossils remind us that the story of life is incomplete. Beneath its frozen mask may lie not only the memory of creatures long dead, but the pulse of species that have endured, waiting patiently for humanity to rediscover them. Antarctica's transformation from fertile land to frozen desert is one of Earth's great mysteries. Geological evidence suggests it was once temperate, covered in forests and rivers. Then, almost suddenly, it froze. What force could bury a continent beneath miles of ice, trapping its life and perhaps its civilizations in a glacial tomb? One theory speaks of a comet impact, a cosmic visitor that struck with devastating force. The explosion would have darkened the skies, shifted climates, and unleashed tsunamis that reshaped continents. The shock could have tilted Earth's axis, plunging Antarctica into darkness and cold. Legends of fire from the heavens, floods, and destruction may be echoes of such a cataclysm. Others point to pole shifts, moments when Earth's crust slides over its molten interior, realigning the continents in sudden violence. If Antarctica once sat in a temperate zone, such a shift could have thrust it into its current position almost overnight, freezing forests, rivers, and perhaps cities in place, preserving them as if trapped in a cosmic pause. The evidence of sudden climate shift supports these ideas. Fossilized plants reveal growth patterns consistent with temperate sunlight, not polar night. Yet layers above show abrupt freezing, as if warmth had been extinguished in a single stroke. Mammoth carcasses in Siberia, frozen with food still in their mouths, hint at a catastrophe that was swift, merciless, and global. Legends across cultures align with this narrative. Stories of floods that swallowed cities, of fire that rained from the sky, of ages destroyed in moments, all echo a shared memory of disaster. Antarctica, with its frozen vault, may be the central witness to that event, the place where the catastrophe's aftermath was preserved most completely. The possibility of a cosmic strike grows more plausible when one considers the scars on Earth's surface. Craters of unimaginable scale testify to past impacts. If one struck near or upon Antarctica, its effect would have been magnified by the continent's unique position, triggering a cascade of ice and ocean shifts that reshape the globe. For those who entertain these theories, Antarctica becomes not merely a land of mystery, but ground zero of Earth's greatest disaster. Its ice sheets are not simply natural formations, but the frozen aftermath of cosmic violence, a burial shroud for an age of life wiped away. The thought that civilizations could have thrived before such catastrophe is haunting. If they did, they would have been extinguished almost instantly, their achievements frozen in place. Humanity's true history may not be one of slow, linear progress, but of cycles shattered by disaster, each reset erasing what came before. To study Antarctica is to stand before a silent witness, a continent that remembers catastrophe even if humanity does not. Its frozen plains may hold the evidence, waiting for the day the ice reveals the story of how a thriving world was struck down by forces beyond comprehension. The cosmic catastrophe theory paints Antarctica as both victim and vault, the place where the memory of Earth's most violent upheaval is locked away. To uncover its truth would be to confront the fragility of civilization itself and to realize that what lies beneath the ice is not only history, but a warning. On the surface of the Taylor Glacier in East Antarctica, a strange phenomenon disturbs the otherwise pristine whiteness of the ice. A stream of crimson water seeps from deep within, staining the snow with the color of blood. Known as Blood Falls, it is one of the continent's most haunting features, a natural wound in an otherwise frozen and lifeless land. For years, scientists puzzled over its existence. At first, they believed red algae caused the coloration, but closer study revealed the truth was far stranger. The crimson hue comes from salt water rich in iron, trapped beneath the glacier for millions of years. When it seeps out and meets the air, it oxidizes, turning a shade eerily reminiscent of blood. Yet even with this explanation, the image remains unsettling. In the middle of an endless white desert, a river of red flows as though the land itself bleeds. It evokes the impression that Antarctica hides not only ice and stone, but veins and secrets, that beneath its surface lies something alive, struggling to reveal itself drop by drop. Some see bloodfalls as more than a geological curiosity. To them it is a symbol, a message from the frozen earth that not all is silent or dead. It reminds us that beneath the glaciers are liquid waters, sealed ecosystems, and perhaps entire worlds untouched by the surface. Life, in forms strange and unknown, may thrive in the hidden lakes from which this crimson water escapes. The falls themselves connect to Lake Bonny, a body of water sealed beneath the glacier. Within it, microbes live in total darkness, feeding on iron and sulfur, surviving in conditions no human could endure. Their resilience sparks unsettling thoughts. If life can exist here under the weight of ice, cut off from light and air, what else might endure in even deeper, hidden places? Legends and imagination stretch the image further. To some, Bloodfalls is not a stream, but a symbol of sacrifice, a wound revealing that Antarctica is more than land. It is a tomb. The red waters suggest memory, as if the continent itself mourns what was lost, bleeding slowly into the present. Whispers claim that explorers who ventured near the falls reported unease, as though the place exuded something more than scientific curiosity. The sound of trickling crimson water against ice was likened to a heartbeat, echoing in the silence of the glacier. For them, the falls were not just a spectacle, but a reminder of Antarctica's hidden vitality, its secrets pressing against the surface. Bloodfalls continues to flow year after year, defying the stillness around it. It is both revelation and warning, revealing the hidden waters of Antarctica, yet warning that the continent holds depths beyond human reach. The glacier does not bleed because it dies, but because it remembers, releasing hints of a world we are only beginning to comprehend. The haunting image of crimson streaking across white snow remains etched in the imagination. It is a reminder that Antarctica is not silent stone, but a living archive of Earth's mysteries, bleeding through the cracks to remind us that its secrets will not stay buried forever. When governments release declassified documents, the pages often tell as much in their silences as in their words. The so-called Black Vault files, collections of military and intelligence reports, include fragments that hint at a deeper mystery surrounding Antarctica. They speak of unusual sightings, classified operations, and photographs that remain curiously absent from public archives. One of the most striking features of these documents is their incompleteness. Pages are missing, sentences are blacked out, and critical details vanish into redactions. What remains is enough to provoke questions, but never enough to provide answers. It is as though the files are designed to tantalize, to suggest without confirming, to confuse more than to clarify. Among the fragments are reports of unidentified aerial phenomena near the poles. Military pilots describe lights moving at impossible speeds, craft that vanish into the ice, and radar readings of objects too large and too fast to dismiss as illusions. Official responses dismiss them as anomalies, yet the consistency of the account suggests deliberate omission. Other files hint at expeditions conducted under secrecy, operations never announced to the public. Teams sent to Antarctica for geophysical surveys often return with reports locked away. Witnesses describe being warned into silence, their testimonies buried alongside classified photographs. When requests for these materials are made, the answer is always the same: the documents cannot be located. The Black Vault reveals a pattern of concealment. Governments admit enough to acknowledge anomalies, but never enough to reveal their nature. This selective transparency fuels suspicion that the truth is more profound than the files allow. It is not ignorance that hides the story, but deliberate control. Some believe the files are breadcrumbs intentionally released to guide or mislead. By offering fragments, authorities control the narrative, shaping public curiosity without surrendering the full truth. The result is a fog of uncertainty, where speculation thrives and certainty vanishes. Researchers who sift through the vault often describe the same sensation, that something monumental is hidden, just out of reach. Each redaction becomes a door sealed shut, each missing page a silence louder than words. The more one reads, the clearer it becomes that the greatest revelations lie not in what is written, but in what has been removed. Photographs referenced in the documents but never released are especially suspicious. Mentions of structures, anomalies, and unusual geological features hint at discoveries the public was never meant to see. If ruins or artifacts were found, the vault has erased their images, leaving only whispers of their existence. For those who look too closely, the Black Vault is both frustration and confirmation. It frustrates by denying access, yet confirms that something significant lurks beneath the surface. If Antarctica were truly barren, the files would be empty, not censored. The act of redaction itself is proof that something worth concealing has been found. The vault, like the ice, holds its secrets tightly. Yet cracks appear and fragments escape, enough to remind us that Antarctica's mystery is not only geological or mythical, but political. The truth lies hidden in frozen caverns and in blacked-out words, both guarded by those who fear what might be revealed. Antarctica is not simply a continent. It is a paradox, a land where past and future blur, where silence becomes a presence, and where the ordinary flow of history seems suspended. To gaze upon its endless whiteness is to look upon a world untouched, a place that resists belonging to any era. It is as if Antarctica exists outside the clock of civilization. Its ice holds millions of years of memory, frozen layers preserving atmospheres, climates, and perhaps even civilizations. Each snowflake is a fragment of time, stacking endlessly into a record deeper than any library. Yet unlike books or ruins elsewhere, this archive is sealed, waiting patiently for humanity to discover it, or for the ice to release it on its own. The myths that surround Antarctica only strengthen its aura of timelessness. Stories of lost continents, hidden realms, and forbidden ruins paint it as a place where history folds into legend. The continent becomes less a piece of geography and more a threshold, where what we know and what we dream coexist in uneasy silence. Explorers who walked its plains often felt they had stepped beyond Earth itself. The landscapes seemed alien, unearthly, like the surface of another planet. In the white desert, time stretches days and nights, blending into a rhythm detached from the rest of the world. To live there, even briefly, is to feel one has stepped outside the current of human history. The silence deepens this sensation. Without cities, forests, or human noise, the stillness feels eternal, unbroken since the dawn of time. It gives the impression that the land has always been this way and will always remain so, untouched by the rise and fall of nations. Yet beneath that silence lies the possibility of change, of revelations waiting to surface. For those who believe in hidden ruins, Antarctica becomes more than timeless. It becomes cyclical, a place where civilizations rise, fall, and are buried, only to await rediscovery. Its icy vault could contain evidence not only of humanity's past, but of futures we cannot yet imagine. Some describe Antarctica as a mirror of the cosmos, a place where the eternal and the fleeting collide. Its glaciers seem endless, yet they move, shift, and break, reminding us that even the eternal changes. Its silence feels absolute, yet within it, life persists, microbes thriving in hidden lakes, untouched for eons. It is a land that defies boundaries, where contradictions coexist. To call it outside time is not poetic exaggeration, but an attempt to capture its essence. It is a place where our understanding of past, present, and future collapses, where the weight of ages presses against the fragility of the present. Every crack in the ice, every strange anomaly, every whisper of ruins reminds us that we are intruding on something vast, something older and greater than ourselves. Antarctica's mystery lies not only in what it hides, but in how it exists. It feels eternal, yet it changes. It feels empty, yet it preserves. It resists us, yet it calls us closer. It is a land outside time, a threshold between what was, what is, and what will come. To step onto its ice is to feel that time itself bends, that we are no longer in the world we know, but in a place where history, legend, and silence converge into one. It is less a continent than a reminder that Earth itself still holds places beyond our grasp, lands that exist on the edge of the human story, waiting for the moment when they decide to speak. The silence of Antarctica has endured for millions of years, but silence is not eternal. The ice, once thought unbreakable, is melting. Each year, new valleys open, hidden lakes emerge, and ancient fossils rise to the surface. The continent is slowly awakening, revealing glimpses of the world it has concealed for ages. What has been buried beneath the glaciers may not remain hidden much longer. As the ice retreats, secrets that were locked away in frozen vaults for millennia will be forced back into the light. These revelations may transform our understanding of history, our sense of time, and even our belief in what it means to be human. Antarctica is not simply a land of snow and storms. It is a library of the forgotten, a mausoleum of lost civilizations, a threshold into mysteries that touch both earth and sky. The rumors of ruins, the whispers of hidden gateways, the strange lights above its plains, all combine into a story too vast to ignore. The question is not whether there are secrets beneath the ice, but whether we are ready to face them. Already the edges of the continent tell us of change. Fossils reveal jungles where ice now rules. Radar uncovers patterns that resemble walls and foundations. Streams of crimson water seep from glaciers as though the land itself protests its imprisonment. Each sign is a reminder that the ice cannot hold its secrets forever. Humanity has always been drawn to mysteries, yet some mysteries resist us. Antarctica guards its past fiercely, and perhaps with reason. To uncover what lies beneath may shake the foundations of history and belief. But the ice is thinning, and the veil it provides grows weaker with each passing year. What will be revealed? Perhaps the ruins of forgotten builders, their cities preserved like crystallized memories. Perhaps relics of Atlantis, frozen proof of a golden age brought low by catastrophe. Perhaps even entrances to realms we can barely imagine, worlds that stretch beneath our feet into the hollow darkness. Whatever truth emerges, it will not be small. Antarctica is not a place for trivial revelations. It holds the scale of cataclysm, the weight of civilizations, the echoes of time itself. Its silence is immense because what it guards is immense. The thought is both exhilarating and unsettling. If the ice yields its secrets, we may discover we are not the first to rise, not the first to build, and not the first to fall. We may find that we are part of a much older story, one that has played out many times, each cycle buried deeper in the earth. Antarctica is the last frontier, not only of geography but of knowledge. It is the keeper of memory, the final wall of silence standing between us and a truth too vast to contain. That wall is melting, and when it crumbles, the world will be forced to face what lies beyond. The ice will not keep its secrets forever. One day soon, the frozen veil will lift, and when it does, the question will no longer be what Antarctica hides, but whether we are ready for the truth it reveals. Thank you for watching. If this journey into Antarctica's forbidden ruins stirred your imagination, remember to subscribe to the channel for more explorations into the world's hidden mysteries. Click the like button if you enjoyed this film, leave a comment with your thoughts or theories, and share this story with your friends and family so that they too can step into the silence of the White Desert.